never expected my sister's wedding to change everything between us. Growing up, Emma was always the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect friends, perfect life. I loved her, of course. Sisters are sisters. But there was always this unspoken hierarchy in our family, and I had accepted my place in it long ago. Emma shined, and I was the shadow that made her light seem even brighter. When Emma got engaged to Andrew last spring, I was genuinely happy for her. Andrew was handsome, successful, and came from a good family. Everything our parents had always wanted for their favorite daughter. The proposal was elaborate and picture perfect. A surprise trip to the Bahamas, a sunset beach dinner, and a diamond ring that cost more than my car. Emma called me screaming with excitement that night. "Lily! Oh my God, Lily! Andrew proposed." Her voice was breathless with joy. "It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. I can't wait to show you the ring." "That's amazing, Em. I'm so happy for you," I replied, and I meant it. Despite everything, I wanted my sister to be happy. The wedding planning consumed our entire family for nearly a year. My parents remortgaged part of their house to afford Emma's dream wedding, something they never would have considered doing for me. But I pushed those thoughts aside. It wasn't productive to compare. "We're thinking about a June wedding," Emma announced at Sunday dinner, a week after the engagement. "The Hamilton estate has an opening, and Daddy already put down the deposit." My father beamed. Nothing but the best for my princess. I sat quietly, picking at my roast chicken. The Hamilton estate was the most exclusive wedding venue in our state, with a 2-year waiting list. Somehow my father had pulled strings and secured it for Emma in just a week. "Lily, you're being awfully quiet," my mother noted, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Aren't you excited for your sister?" I forced enthusiasm into my voice. "Of course I am. The Hamilton estate is perfect for you, Em." Emma nodded, not really looking at me. "I knew you'd agree. Oh, I've already chosen my bridesmaids. Jessica will be my maid of honor, of course. And then Melissa, Kate, and Rebecca from college." I felt a small stab of hurt. I'd always assumed that when Emma got married, I would be her maid of honor, just as I'd planned for her to be mine someday. But Jessica had been Emma's best friend since college, and they were inseparable. "That sounds perfect," I said, smiling through the sting. "They'll be so excited." "Lily, we need your help with the wedding," my mother said during another Sunday dinner, 3 months before the big day. Her tone made it clear this wasn't a request. "You've always been so practical. We could use your organizational skills." I nodded, pushing my food around the plate. "Of course. What do you need me to do?" Emma beamed from across the table, her engagement ring catching the light with every gesture. "You're the only one I trust to handle the guest book and gifts table. Plus, you're so good with the kids in the family." I smiled back, ignoring the familiar pang in my chest. Not a bridesmaid, not a maid of honor, just the glorified babysitter and gift table attendant. But I agreed because that's what I always did. "I'm happy to help however I can," I said. "It's your special day." My mother nodded approvingly. "That's settled then. Oh, and Lily, we should discuss what you'll wear. Something subtle would be best, don't you think? We wouldn't want you to clash with the bridesmaids' dresses." "They're wearing lavender," Emma added. "So maybe something beige or very light blue. Nothing too eye-catching." "I'll find something appropriate," I promised, though it stung to be told essentially to blend into the background. The wedding preparations intensified as the date approached. Every weekend was consumed with tastings, fittings, and endless discussions about flowers and tablecloths. I showed up to every event, helped with every task, and watched as everyone fawned over Emma. I spent hours addressing invitations in my best calligraphy, researching vendors when Emma was too busy, and helping my mother coordinate with the wedding planner. I even took a week off from my job as an elementary school teacher to help with last-minute arrangements. Emma never explicitly thanked me, and my parents seemed to take my assistance for granted. The programs need to be folded and tied with ribbon, my mother informed me one evening, dropping a heavy box on my kitchen table. The wedding planner was going to charge extra for this, but I told her my other daughter would be happy to do it. I stared at the box. There must have been 300 programs inside. When do you need them done? Tomorrow morning, of course, she replied, already heading for the door. The planner needs to check them off her list. I stayed up until 2 a.m., my fingers cramping from tying tiny ribbons, but I got it done. When I delivered them the next day, Emma merely glanced at them and said, "Oh, the ribbon isn't quite the shade I wanted, but I guess it's too late now." The night before the wedding, at the rehearsal dinner, I sat at the far end of the table while Emma and her bridesmaids, all her college friends, giggled and clinked champagne glasses. The restaurant was exclusive and elegant, with candlelight casting a warm glow over everyone. Everyone except me, it seemed, as I was seated beside my great-aunt Martha, who was hard of hearing and spent most of the dinner asking me to repeat what everyone was saying. I watched as my father stood up to give a toast, his voice thick with emotion as he spoke about how proud he was of Emma, how she had always been his special girl. My mother wiped away tears as he described Emma's accomplishments and how she deserved all the happiness in the world with Andrew. "You okay down here all by yourself?" A man's voice pulled me from my thoughts. It was James, the photographer. He wasn't part of the wedding party, but he'd been hired to document the rehearsal dinner too. He was tall, with kind eyes, and a camera that seemed like an extension of himself. I'd noticed him moving around the room, capturing candid moments throughout the evening. "I'm fine," I said, forcing a smile. "Just tired from all the preparations." He glanced at the main table, then back at me. "You're the bride's sister, right? I've been taking photos all week and noticed you're always helping but never really included." His observation stung because it was true. "It's fine. I'm used to it." James nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "I see a lot at weddings. More than people realize. Photographers are practically invisible once people get used to us being around." "What's the strangest thing you've seen?" I asked, genuinely curious and grateful for the conversation. A small smile played at his lips. "Oh, I could tell stories for days. Last month, I photographed a wedding where the bride's ex crashed the ceremony, declaring his love. Turned out the bride had hired him to do it. She wanted to test the groom's reaction." I laughed despite myself. "That's terrible. What happened?" "The groom punched him. The bride was thrilled with his display of passion, and I got some very dramatic photos." He chuckled. Wedding photography isn't just about capturing beautiful moments. It's about documenting human drama in all its forms. Before he could say more, my mother waved him over to take more photos of Emma and her bridesmaids. He gave me an apologetic smile and walked away, leaving me again with Aunt Martha, who had fallen asleep with her dessert spoon still in hand. After the rehearsal dinner, I drove Emma back to our parents' house, where she'd be spending her last night as a single woman. She was slightly tipsy from champagne, and unusually talkative on the ride home. "Can you believe it, Lily? This time tomorrow I'll be Mrs. Andrew Hamilton," she sighed dreamily. "Everything's going to be perfect." "I'm sure it will be," I agreed, keeping my eyes on the road. "You know," she continued, staring out the window, "I sometimes wonder what your wedding will be like someday. Something small, I imagine. Something sensible." The way she said sensible made it sound like a consolation prize. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "I haven't given it much thought," I lied. In truth, I dreamed of my wedding day too. Nothing as extravagant as Emma's, but special in its own way. "Well, when the time comes, I'll help you," she said magnanimously. "You've been such a help with my wedding after all." I simply nodded, not trusting myself to speak. We rode the rest of the way in silence. The morning of the wedding arrived with perfect weather, sunny but not too hot. A gentle breeze, exactly what Emma had wished for. I woke up early in my childhood bedroom, having stayed overnight to help with final preparations. I made coffee for everyone and prepared a light breakfast that Emma could eat without risking bloating in her dress. I helped my mother get ready, steamed Emma's dress, and ran countless errands before getting myself dressed. The makeup artist and hairstylist arrived at 9 a.m., setting up in Emma's bedroom. I watched as they transformed my already beautiful sister into something ethereal. The bridesmaids arrived shortly after, filling the house with excited chatter and the popping of champagne corks. "Lily, can you check if the florist has delivered the bouquets yet?" my mother called out as I passed Emma's room. "And then make sure your father has his boutonniere pinned correctly." I dutifully checked on the flowers, helped my father with his boutonniere, and fielded calls from distant relatives who had gotten lost on their way to the venue. No one offered to help with my hair or makeup, so I did it myself. Nothing too elaborate, just enough to look presentable. When I finally put on my outfit, not a bridesmaid dress, just a simple blue dress I'd bought myself, my mother frowned as she caught sight of me in the hallway. "Lily, that color might stand out too much in photos. Couldn't you have chosen something more muted?" I swallowed the hurt. "This was the dress we agreed on, Mom. Remember? You and Emma both said blue was fine." She sighed heavily, checking her watch. "I suppose it's too late now. Just try not to be in too many of the family photos. We want to keep a consistent color scheme." I nodded, biting the inside of my cheek to keep from saying something I'd regret. This was Emma's day, I reminded myself, not the time to create drama over a dress. At the church, I helped arrange flowers, directed early guests, and made sure everything was perfect. The Hamilton Estates Chapel was breathtaking, with stained glass windows and dark wood pews adorned with lavender and white flower arrangements, all of which I had helped select and order. Emma arrived in a limousine with her bridesmaids, looking absolutely breathtaking in her designer gown. The dress had cost more than most people's cars, with hand-sewn pearls and a train that required 2 bridesmaids to manage. My parents couldn't stop crying at the sight of her. "Lily, there you are." My mother spotted me as guests began filing in. Her voice was tight with barely contained stress. "Listen, we have a small issue. Cousin Rachel's babysitter canceled last minute, and she's brought her twins. They're only 3 and might make noise during the ceremony." I already knew where this was headed. "You want me to watch them? Would you mind? You're so good with children. You can sit in the back row and take them out if they get fussy." I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell her that I'd like to actually watch my sister get married, that I'd spent months helping plan this wedding and deserved to experience it. But instead, I nodded. "Sure, Mom." "You're such a help," she said, already turning away. "Emma is so lucky to have you." Rachel handed off her twins with barely a thank you, rushing to find her seat near the front with the rest of the family. I settled in the last row with a squirming toddler on each knee, trying to distract them with small toys I had, thankfully, thought to bring in my purse. The church filled quickly, the murmur of conversation growing louder. From my position in the back, I could see everyone but doubted anyone could see me. The organist began playing, signaling the start of the ceremony. The bridesmaids processed in one by one, each looking beautiful in their flowing lavender dresses. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for. Emma on our father's arm, beginning her walk down the aisle. A collective gasp rose from the guests as they stood to welcome her. Even from the back of the church, I could see how radiant she looked, how happy. The ceremony began. From my position at the back, I could barely see anything over the heads of standing guests. One of the twins started fussing, so I bounced him gently on my knee, trying to soothe him while straining to catch glimpses of my sister's special moment. "Shh, it's okay," I whispered, as the little boy began to whimper. "Look at the pretty flowers. Aren't they nice?" I pointed to the nearest arrangement, trying desperately to distract him before his cries interrupted the ceremony. His sister, not wanting to be left out, began grabbing at my necklace, almost choking me in the process. I gently removed her tiny fingers, offering her a small stuffed animal from my purse instead. She accepted it grudgingly, but I knew her cooperation was temporary at best. I felt a presence beside me and turned to see James, the photographer, kneeling in the aisle to capture shots from different angles. He paused, glancing at me with the twins. "They stuck you with babysitting duty?" he whispered, snapping a few photos of the ceremony. I gave a small shrug. Someone has to do it. He took a few more photos, then leaned close again. "When this is over, check page 4 of the bridal magazine in the bride's ready room." "What?" I whispered back, confused. "Page 4, he repeated, before moving away to capture the vows from another angle. I sat there bewildered, trying to quiet the increasingly restless twins while wondering what on earth James was talking about. What bridal magazine? Why page 4? And why tell me about it? The male twin began to cry in earnest, just as the minister asked if anyone objected to the union. The timing couldn't have been worse. Heads turned, frowns appeared, and I quickly stood up, lifting both children and hurrying toward the exit at the back of the church. In the small vestibule, I paced back and forth, bouncing and shushing the crying child while his sister began to fuss in sympathy. Through the crack in the door, I could hear the ceremony continuing. The exchange of rings, the minister's words about love and commitment. I had helped Emma practice her vows, had listened to her recite them dozens of times, but now I couldn't even hear them being spoken for real. By the time I managed to calm both children, the ceremony was nearly over. I slipped back into the church just in time to hear the minister pronounce Emma and Andrew husband and wife. They kissed as everyone applauded, and then began their triumphant walk back up the aisle as newlyweds. Emma didn't even glance in my direction as she passed. As guests filed out behind the newlyweds, I returned the twins to their mother, who barely acknowledged me before rushing off to join the receiving line. My arms ached from holding them, and my blue dress now sported several suspicious stains that I hoped weren't noticeable. My mother spotted me and hurried over, her expression a mix of relief and criticism. "There you are. Were the children difficult? I heard crying during the ceremony." "They're 3, Mom," I said, feeling defensive. "They did their best." She pursed her lips. "Well, no harm done, I suppose. Listen, we're taking family photos in 5 minutes by the altar. Fix your hair first. It's gotten messy." Of course it was messy. I'd been wrestling with toddlers for an hour. "Mom, I need to use the restroom first." "Be quick," she said, already turning away. "And remember, stand at the end so they can crop you out if the blue doesn't work with the color scheme." Something snapped inside me. After years of accepting my place on the sidelines, something about this day, being relegated to babysitting, missing my sister's vows, and now being told I might be cropped out of family photos, was too much. Instead of heading to the bathroom to fix my hair, I walked straight to the bride's ready room. I had no idea what I was looking for, but James's words echoed in my mind. Check page 4. The room was empty, everyone having moved to the photo session. It was a beautiful space, with antique furniture and large mirrors. Emma's things were scattered around. Her makeup bag, the hanger from her dress, a pair of slippers she'd worn while getting ready. On a side table was a stack of bridal magazines. Emma had collected them throughout her engagement, using them for inspiration. But which one did James mean? On top of the pile was the latest issue of Modern Bride, open to a marked page. I picked it up, my hands trembling slightly, and turned to page 4. My breath caught in my throat. Page 4 wasn't a glossy spread of wedding dresses or flower arrangements. Tucked into the magazine was a folded sheet of paper, a printout of an email thread. I hesitated before unfolding it, some part of me already knowing this would change everything. The emails were between Emma and her maid of honor, Jessica. I recognized both their email addresses immediately. With shaking hands, I began to read. From Emma to Jessica. Subject: wedding duties. Jess, I need you to make sure Lily stays busy with small tasks during the wedding. Mom agrees that she'll try to make this about her if we don't keep her occupied. She's always been jealous of me, and I don't want her ruining my special day by trying to get attention. Put her on child duty during the ceremony if possible. I've already told Mom to make sure she's not in too many photos. That blue dress she picked is not what I wanted, but it's easier to just crop her out later than have a fight about it. You know how dramatic she gets when confronted directly. From Jessica to Emma. Subject: wedding duties. Don't worry, I'll keep her so busy she won't have time to make a scene. Still can't believe she tried to suggest being your maid of honor. As if. We've got this handled. I'll make sure she's stationed far from any important moments. Your day will be perfect without her drama. BTW. What was that comment she made about helping pay for the flowers? She's not actually contributing, right? From Emma to Jessica. Subject: wedding duties. God, no, she offered. But Daddy would be so embarrassed if people thought we needed her teacher's salary to pay for my wedding. I just let her think she's helping, but we're not using any of her suggestions. Though I did let her address all those invitations. Saved us a fortune on the calligrapher. LOL. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. I'd never tried to make anything about me. I'd never been jealous of Emma. I'd loved her, supported her, helped her with everything. And all this time she'd been deliberately pushing me aside, painting me as some attention-seeking, jealous sister. The worst part was discovering that my parents were in on it too. My mother had been the one to suggest keeping me occupied, keeping me in the background. And my offer to help pay for the flowers, made after I'd taken on extra tutoring jobs for months to save up, had been dismissed and mocked. I sat down heavily on a small velvet chair, the email still clutched in my hand. Every slight, every dismissal over the years suddenly had new context. This wasn't just about the wedding. This was about my place in my family, or rather my lack of one. I thought you should see that. I jumped, looking up to find James standing in the doorway of the ready room. He had his camera hanging around his neck, but it was lowered, his expression somber. Why? I managed to ask, quickly wiping away tears. Why show me this? He stepped inside, closing the door partially behind him. I was taking candids at the engagement party, and I overheard them talking about you. Then I started noticing how they treated you compared to everyone else. It didn't seem right. I stared at him, trying to understand. You took a screenshot of their emails? How did you even get access to that? James shook his head. I didn't hack anything, if that's what you're thinking. Jessica was working on wedding stuff at the rehearsal dinner while you were dealing with your aunt. She had her laptop open, and I was taking detail shots nearby. She got up to get a drink, and I saw your name on the screen. I just took a quick photo of it with my phone. I know that's an invasion of privacy, but you don't even know me, I said, voice barely above a whisper. Why would you care how they treat me? I know enough, he replied, his eyes kind but determined. I've photographed hundreds of weddings. You can tell a lot about a family by how they treat each other when they think no one's watching. He paused. No one deserves to be treated like they're invisible in their own family. I looked down at the emails again, reading the casual cruelty in my sister's words. I spent over 30 hours addressing those invitations, I said softly. My hand was cramping so badly I could barely hold a pen at work the next day. And the flowers you offered to help pay for? Peonies. Emma's favorites. They're out of season and expensive. I saved up nearly $2,000. I gave a bitter laugh. I thought it would be my special contribution. Something meaningful. James leaned against the doorframe, giving me space. What will you do now? That was the question, wasn't it? I'd spent years diminishing myself to avoid being seen as the dramatic sister, the jealous sister, the attention-seeking sister. All things I'd never actually been. And now I had proof that those labels had been deliberately placed on me to justify excluding me. I folded the paper carefully, my mind racing. "They're waiting for family photos," I said, more to myself than to James. "My mother told me to stand at the end so they could crop me out if needed." Something shifted inside me. A lifetime of accepting less, of making myself smaller to make room for Emma's brightness, suddenly felt unbearable. "I think I'm done being cropped out," I said, straightening my shoulders. James smiled. "Good for you." I tucked the email printout into my clutch purse and checked my reflection in the mirror. My hair was indeed a mess from the twins, and there was a small stain on my dress. But for the first time that day, perhaps for the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to apologize for taking up space. "Thank you," I said to James. "This couldn't have been an easy decision for you." He shrugged. "I'm sure it'll cost me a recommendation from this family, but some things matter more than business contacts." He hesitated. "What exactly are you going to do?" I considered the question. "I'm not entirely sure yet, but I'm done being the family's scapegoat." I gathered my things. "I should go. They're waiting." James nodded. "I'll be documenting whatever happens next. That's my job, after all." I walked out of the ready room with a strange calm settling over me. The church was nearly empty now, with most guests having moved to the reception venue for cocktail hour. At the altar, the family had gathered for photos. My parents, Emma and Andrew, his parents, and the wedding party. "Lily, there you are." My mother's voice was sharp with impatience. "We've been waiting. Your hair is still a mess." I looked at my sister in her perfect white dress, at my beaming parents, at the bridesmaids who had conspired to keep me occupied and out of the way. They all looked back at me with impatient expressions, waiting for my usual apology, my usual effort to fade into the background. "I'm not going to be in the photos," I said calmly. "What?" My mother's eyes widened. "Don't be ridiculous. You're family. Just stand at the end here." "No, Mom. I'm not going to stand at the end so you can crop me out later if my blue dress ruins your color scheme." Emma's face paled slightly. My father looked confused. "Lily, what are you talking about?" Emma asked, her voice higher than normal. "No one's cropping you out of anything." I met my sister's eyes directly. "Really? That's not what you told Jessica in your emails." The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica shifted uncomfortably beside Emma. My mother's mouth opened and closed without words. "I've spent my entire life supporting you, Emma," I continued, my voice steady despite the emotions churning inside me. "I've helped with every aspect of this wedding. I missed your actual ceremony because I was stuck in the back with Cousin Rachel's kids. And now I find out you've been deliberately pushing me aside and painting me as some jealous, attention-seeking sister. How did you? Emma sputtered, looking around wildly until her eyes landed on the clutch where I'd stored the emails. "You went through my things? See, this is exactly what I was talking about. You're trying to ruin my wedding day." Andrew looked confused, glancing between us. "Emma, what's going on?" "Nothing," she said quickly. "Lily's just being dramatic as usual. Can we please take these photos?" My father stepped forward, his expression serious. "Lily, this isn't the time or place for whatever grievance you've been harboring. Your sister has worked hard to make this day perfect." "I've worked hard too, Dad," I said, feeling a lifetime of hurt rising to the surface. I addressed all the invitations. I arranged the flowers. I helped with every detail. And you know what? I even offered to help pay for Emma's precious out-of-season peonies with money I saved from taking extra tutoring jobs. My mother had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Lily, please." "No, Mom. I'm done being the family afterthought. I'm done being the one who gets pushed aside and then blamed for feeling hurt about it." I turned to Emma. "I genuinely wanted you to have a beautiful wedding. I never tried to make anything about me. But you and Jessica and Mom conspired to keep me busy and out of sight, like I was some embarrassing relative no one wanted to acknowledge." Emma's perfect makeup couldn't hide the flush of guilt that spread across her face. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. It was just a few emails. It's not just the emails, Emma. It's a lifetime of this treatment, and I'm done accepting it." From the corner of my eye, I could see James discreetly taking photos. Part of me wondered what these pictures would show. A family finally confronting years of unspoken dynamics. The perfect wedding facade cracking to reveal the truth beneath. "So what now?" my father demanded. "You've said your piece. Are you going to stand there and ruin the rest of the day?" The old Lily would have backed down, apologized, and found a way to smooth things over. But I wasn't that person anymore. "No, Dad. I'm not going to ruin anything. I'm simply removing myself from a situation where I'm clearly not valued." I looked at each of them in turn. "I won't be in the photos. I won't be at the reception. I think we all know that's what you really wanted anyway." "You can't just leave!" my mother exclaimed, looking around frantically to see if anyone else was witnessing this scene. "What will people think?" "I don't know, Mom. Maybe they'll think that for once. I'm choosing to value myself since none of you do." Emma's composure finally broke. "Fine. Leave. You've always been jealous of me, and now you're proving it. Go ahead and make a scene. It's what you wanted all along." Jessica stepped forward, her bridesmaid dress swishing around her ankles. "Emma, maybe we should all calm down." "Don't," I said to her, my voice ice cold. "I saw your emails too. Don't pretend you're a peacemaker now." Andrew looked increasingly uncomfortable. "I think we should all take a moment. Clearly there are some family issues that need to be addressed, but perhaps not right now." "There's nothing to address," Emma snapped, tears threatening to ruin her perfect makeup. "Lily's just being selfish as usual. She can't stand that today is about me." I shook my head, suddenly feeling very tired. "That's the thing, Emma. Every day has been about you. I've spent my life in your shadow, and I accepted that. But I won't accept being actively pushed aside and then blamed for it." My father stepped toward me, his voice lowering. "Lily, be reasonable. Go fix your hair, take your place for the photos, and we can discuss all this after the wedding." "No, Dad," I said firmly. "I'm done being reasonable when none of you are being reasonable with me. I'm done pretending that the way you treat me is okay." My mother looked at me pleadingly. "Think of the guests, Lily. Think of how this will look. That's always been the concern, hasn't it? How things look, not how they actually are. How they feel." I took a deep breath. "I'm leaving now. I hope you all enjoy the reception." I turned to go, and that's when Emma called after me, her voice cracking. "If you leave now, don't expect things to be the same between us. You can't just walk out on my wedding and think there won't be consequences." I paused, looking back at my sister in her perfect white dress, surrounded by the people who had always prioritized her feelings and needs over mine. "I'm counting on things not being the same, Emma. That's the whole point." As I walked down the aisle toward the exit, I passed James, who was pretending to adjust his camera settings. Our eyes met briefly, and he gave me an almost imperceptible nod of respect. Outside the church, the June sun was warm on my face. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years, despite the hurt and anger still swirling inside me. For the first time in my life, I had stood up for myself, had refused to be diminished. I had no illusions that this confrontation would magically fix my relationship with my family. In fact, I knew it might damage it beyond repair. But as I walked to my car, I realized that continuing as we had been, with me constantly diminished and dismissed, would have done just as much damage, only more slowly and painfully, with me bearing the brunt of it all. My phone buzzed in my purse. A text from my mother. "Please reconsider. Come back. We can talk about this later." I didn't respond. There would be time for talking later, perhaps, but not today. Today, I had finally drawn a boundary, had finally refused to be the family scapegoat. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was a necessary beginning. As I started my car, I caught sight of my reflection in the rearview mirror. My hair was indeed a mess, and there were traces of tears on my cheeks, but my eyes were clear and determined. I wasn't the jealous sister, the dramatic sister, the attention-seeking sister they had painted me to be. I was just a person who had finally decided that she deserved better. I drove away from the Hamilton estate, from my sister's perfect wedding, from years of accepting less than I deserved. I didn't know exactly where I was going, but for the first time in my life, I was choosing my own path, not following in the shadow of someone else's. 3 days passed after the wedding incident. My phone had been a constant stream of texts and calls, some angry, some pleading, all demanding that I apologize for ruining Emma's wedding. I had silenced most notifications, needing time to process everything. I was grading papers in my classroom after school when a knock on my door startled me. The principal stood there, looking concerned. "Lily, there's someone here to see you." She hesitated. "He says he's the wedding photographer from your sister's ceremony? James something?" My heart skipped. "James? Did he say what he wants?" "Just that he has something for you. I can tell him you're busy." "No, it's fine," I said quickly. "I'll see him." James appeared in the doorway, camera bag slung over his shoulder, looking slightly out of place among the colorful alphabet posters and children's artwork. He offered a tentative smile. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Just grading papers." I gestured to the chair beside my desk. "Please, sit." He settled into the too small chair meant for parent-teacher conferences. "I wanted to check on you, and I have something that might interest you." He reached into his bag and pulled out a manila envelope. "What's this?" I asked, taking it cautiously. "The wedding photos." He paused. "Well, some of them." I stared at the envelope without opening it. "I'm not sure I want to see them." "These aren't the official wedding album shots," James explained. "These are different. I thought you might want them." Curiosity won out. I opened the envelope and slid out a stack of glossy photographs. The first one made my breath catch. It was me, sitting in the back pew with the twins, trying to comfort one while the other tugged at my necklace. Despite the chaos, there was something dignified in my expression, a quiet resilience that James had somehow captured. The next showed me rushing around before the ceremony, helping with flowers, adjusting my father's boutonniere, directing guests, all while the bridesmaids lounged with champagne flutes in hand. "You were documenting me?" I asked, puzzled. James nodded. "At first, it was just professional instinct. I photograph everyone at weddings, not just the bride. But then I started noticing a pattern. You were always giving, always helping, always being pushed to the periphery." I continued through the photos. There was one of my mother frowning at my blue dress, another of Emma dismissively handing me her purse to hold during a pre-ceremony photo. The visual evidence of how my family treated me was stark and undeniable. "Why are you showing me these?" My voice was barely a whisper. "Because sometimes we need to see ourselves through someone else's eyes to understand our own worth." He hesitated. "There's one more, at the back." I turned to the last photo and gasped. It was me walking away from the altar after our confrontation. My back was straight, my head high despite the tears on my cheeks. The sunlight streaming through the stained glass bathed me in a rainbow of colors. I looked powerful, free. "This is how I see you," James said quietly. "Not as someone's afterthought or shadow, but as someone stepping into her own light." Tears welled in my eyes. "Thank you for everything." "I did lose the rest of the Hamilton wedding business," he admitted with a small smile. "Your sister demanded all the photos I took and fired me when I refused to delete the ones of your confrontation. I'm sorry. That must have been a significant loss." He shrugged. "Some things matter more than money." He stood to leave, then hesitated. "Actually, I wanted to ask you something else. I'm working on a photo series called Unseen. It's about people who are overlooked but essential. Would you consider being part of it?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed insistently. Emma's name flashed on the screen. "Do you need to take that?" James asked. I declined the call. "No, it can wait." I smiled. "Tell me more about this photo series." Emma's text came later that evening. "We need to talk. Mom and Dad are beside themselves. Please stop being difficult." I sighed, finally ready to respond. "I'm not being difficult. I'm being honest for the first time in my life." 3 dots appeared immediately. "Can we meet? Just you and me, no Mom and Dad." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to continue my self-protective silence, but another part knew that avoiding this conversation wouldn't solve anything. "Tomorrow. Coffee shop on Elm, 4:30. The next day, I arrived at the cafe first, selecting a quiet corner table where we could speak privately. Emma arrived precisely on time, looking nothing like the radiant bride from 5 days ago. Her face was drawn, her designer outfit somehow less polished than usual. "You look terrible," I said, not unkindly. She slumped into the chair across from me. "Yes, well, having your honeymoon ruined tends to do that." I raised an eyebrow. "You canceled your trip to Bali because of our fight?" "No." She stirred her coffee needlessly. "But Andrew and I have barely spoken. He's upset about what happened. About those emails. I'm surprised he cares." Emma looked genuinely hurt. "Of course he cares. He loves you. You're his sister-in-law." I let the silence hang between us. Emma had always been uncomfortable with silence, filling it with chatter about herself. But today, she seemed different. "I've been thinking about what you said," she finally admitted. "About always being pushed aside. And I'm not saying you're completely right, but maybe there's some truth to it." It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard from her. "Why did you write those things, Em?" I asked. "Do you really see me that way? As jealous and attention-seeking?" She stared into her coffee. "I don't know. It's just, you've always been so good. The responsible one. The kind one. Mom and Dad always point that out. Why can't you be more like Lily?" they'd ask whenever I got in trouble. I nearly choked. "What? They've never done that." "Not to your face," Emma said bitterly. "But I've heard it my whole life. Lily would never do that. Lily knows better. You were their perfect daughter in ways I couldn't be." I sat back, stunned. This was so contrary to my experience that it was hard to process. "But they've always favored you," I insisted. "The vacations, the expensive clothes, the Hamilton estate for your wedding." "Things," Emma interrupted. "They gave me things. But you got their approval, their respect. Do you know what Dad said to me the night before the wedding? Try to be more thoughtful like your sister. Even on my wedding day, I was being compared to you." We stared at each other across the table, both seeing the other clearly for perhaps the first time. "So you pushed me aside at your wedding because for once, I wanted to be the good one. The center of attention for something positive, not just because I'm louder or more demanding." I shook my head, trying to reconcile this with my lifetime of feeling secondary. But those emails, Emma, the way you talked about me. She had the grace to look ashamed. I know. It was horrible. I was stressed and insecure, and I took it out on you because you're an easy target. You never fight back. I did this time, I reminded her. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Yes, you certainly did. We sat in silence again, but it felt different now, less hostile, more contemplative. Where do we go from here? I finally asked. Emma sighed. I don't know. I can't undo what I did or said. And you can't unwalk out of my wedding. No, I agreed. But maybe we can start being honest with each other. No more pretending. No more resentment festering beneath the surface. That sounds terrifying, Emma admitted, but probably necessary. As we finished our coffees, I realized that this was perhaps the most authentic conversation we'd ever had. Not a perfect resolution, but a beginning. By the way, Emma said as we prepared to leave, who is that photographer guy? Andrew said he seemed very protective of you. I smiled, thinking of James and his unseen photo series. Just someone who helped me see things more clearly. 2 months after Emma's wedding, I found myself in James's photography studio, surrounded by his work. Large black and white portraits lined the walls, a janitor gazing thoughtfully at a college campus he'd maintained for 40 years, a hospice nurse holding the hand of a patient, a school crossing guard who knew every child's name. The Unseen series was powerful in its simplicity. These are extraordinary, I told him, moving slowly from image to image. You have a gift for capturing dignity. James smiled, adjusting his camera on a tripod. That's exactly what I'm aiming for. Dignity, not pity. These aren't sad stories. They're celebrations of quiet impact. I had agreed to be part of the series, though I still felt strange about it. I'm not sure I belong here. I'm just an elementary school teacher who had a family drama. It's not about what happened at the wedding, James explained, gesturing for me to sit on the simple stool in his makeshift studio. It's about all the years before that. The invisible work of supporting others while being diminished yourself. That resonates with a lot of people. As he began taking photos, I felt unusually seen. Not just physically, but essentially seen. James had a way of looking that made you feel like your true self was being acknowledged. My sister and I have been talking, I said as he adjusted the lighting. Really talking, maybe for the first time ever. It's been uncomfortable but good. Family reconciliation? He asked, snapping a series of shots. Not exactly. More like family truth-telling. My parents are having a harder time with it. They don't like having their dynamic questioned. After Emma and I had our coffee shop conversation, we'd attempted a family dinner that had gone predictably badly. My father had dismissed my feelings as dramatic nonsense, while my mother had cycled between tearful pleas for harmony and sharp accusations about my selfish behavior. Emma, surprisingly, had defended me, which only confused our parents further. My dad actually said, "We've always treated you girls exactly the same," with a straight face, I told James. When I pointed out the difference between my graduation dinner at Olive Garden and Emma's weekend celebration in Chicago, he said that was different, because Emma had worked harder for her business degree than I had for my teaching credential. James lowered his camera. Some people can't face their own biases. It threatens their self-image as good, fair people. Exactly. It's easier to make me the problem than to examine their behavior. The relationship with my family remained strained, but there was a new honesty to it. I no longer pretended everything was fine when it wasn't. I declined invitations that felt obligatory rather than genuine, and most importantly, I stopped volunteering to be the family helper without recognition. Emma's actually coming to my classroom next week, I mentioned as James wrapped up the photo session. She wants to see what I do. In 32 years, neither of my parents nor my sister has ever visited my classroom. That's a good step, James said, showing me some of the shots on his camera display. Each one captured a different facet of me. Thoughtful, determined, gentle, strong. "These are beautiful," I said, genuinely surprised. "Is that really how I look?" "That's really how you are," he corrected. "The camera just shows what's already there." As I prepared to leave the studio, James hesitated. "I'm having an opening night for this exhibition next month. Would you come? Not just as a subject, but as my guest?" I smiled, feeling a pleasant warmth spread through me. "I'd like that very much." The gallery was crowded on opening night, people clustering around each portrait, discussing the stories behind them. James had paired each photograph with a short narrative, letting the subjects tell their own stories in their own words. My portrait showed me at my desk, surrounded by student papers, my expression focused and serene. Beside it, in simple text, was the story I'd shared with James, not just about the wedding, but about the years of diminishment that had preceded it, and my journey toward establishing boundaries and claiming my worth. "Your portrait is getting a lot of attention," James said, appearing at my side with 2 glasses of champagne. "Several people have asked if you're here tonight." I took the offered glass. "What did you tell them?" "That they should look for the woman who most resembles her photograph, not just physically, but in essence." I laughed. "That's very poetic." "I'm in a poetic mood," he admitted. "This exhibition means a lot to me, and having you here means a lot too." As we toured the rest of the gallery, I was struck by how much James's work resonated with people. Visitors stood before the portraits with tears in their eyes, recognizing something of themselves or someone they loved in these images of the unseen. Near the end of the evening, an unexpected pair of visitors arrived, Emma and Andrew. They looked uncertain as they entered, scanning the crowd until they spotted me with James. "I hope it's okay that we came," Emma said, approaching cautiously. "I saw the event announcement on your social media." "Of course it's okay," I replied, genuinely touched that she'd made the effort. "Let me show you around." As we moved through the exhibition, Emma grew quieter, especially when we reached my portrait. "Is that really how it was for you?" she asked, reading my story. "All those years?" "Yes," I said simply. "But things are different now." Andrew studied the portrait thoughtfully. "It captures you perfectly, Lily. There's a strength there that I don't think I fully appreciated before." Emma nodded in agreement. "You were always the strong one. I just never realized how much it cost you." After they left, James found me still standing before my portrait. "You okay?" he asked gently. "Better than okay," I replied. For the first time in my life, I feel like my family might actually be seeing me, not as an appendage or an afterthought, but as a whole person. James smiled. "That's what this whole project is about, seeing and being seen." As the gallery emptied, James and I walked out into the cool evening air. The Unseen exhibition had been a success, but for me, the greater success was internal. A newfound sense of self-worth that no one could diminish. "What's next for you?" James asked as we strolled toward the nearby park. I thought about the boundary setting I'd been practicing, the honest conversations with Emma, the new distance I maintained from my parents' expectations. I thought about my classroom, where I'd always felt valued, and about the possibilities unfolding with James. "I'm not entirely sure," I answered honestly. "But whatever it is, I know I won't be standing at the edge, waiting to be cropped out. I'll be right in the center of my own life." James took my hand, his touch gentle but sure. "That's exactly where you belong." As we walked through the park, I reflected on the strange journey that had started at Emma's wedding. The photographer who had whispered page 4 had changed everything, not by exposing my family's treatment of me, but by helping me see that I deserved better. The emails had been a catalyst, But the real change had come from within. I had spent a lifetime being the good daughter, the helpful sister, the one who never complained. But in learning to stand up for myself, I hadn't become the selfish, attention-seeking person my family had feared. I had simply become more authentically myself, someone who could give freely without being diminished, who could love without being erased. The full moon illuminated our path as James and I continued our walk, talking about future projects, possible collaborations, and the dinner he'd promised to cook for me the following weekend. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, a simple, "Thank you for tonight," and I smiled, tucking it away. Page 4 of a bridal magazine had revealed a painful truth, but it had also opened the door to a new chapter, one where I was the author of my own story, no longer a footnote in someone else's.